joining us today. As you know, many of our students do not have access to technology that they need to be successful in education. And while we have ordered nearly 79,000 devices for staff and students to use, delays in production and international shipping have kept them from arriving when we need them the most, exacerbating the achievement gap and the homework gap. This is why, a few weeks ago, I called upon our community members and leaders for their help in getting computer devices in the hands of our students, particularly the most vulnerable students. Many individuals and organizations have made donations, and we are so incredibly grateful for those of you who have stepped forward by making donations, either financial donations or coming down to central office and donating gently used devices. Today, I'm proud to announce that several of our local Greek organizations, members of the National Panhellenic Council, also known to us as the Divine Nine, heard the call and are here today to make sizable donations to Guilford Education Alliance for the purpose of purchasing laptops and tablets for GCS students, particularly at Hairston Middle School. You can see them here today with their checks, but I would like to call upon them by name. They are the Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, my beloved sorority, Kappa Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, the Sigma Kappa Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Beta Iota Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, Delta Sigma Sigma Chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, and the Eta Chapter of North Carolina A&T State University, and Gamma Beta Sigma Chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, and Beta Kappa Kappa Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. Altogether, thus far, and the donations continue to come in, they have collected $16,300 to help us bridge the digital divide. What an amazing and significant gift that is, as these organizations continue their more than 100-year tradition of uplifting our communities. Today, there are still many barriers and obstacles to students receiving the quality education they deserve, but access to technology should not be one. The ability to use high-speed internet is still a concern for many of our families, and I encourage these families to please come to an internet hub to use our high-speed internet if that is a concern. Tomorrow, we will again provide internet hubs at 62 schools across the county, and yesterday we opened 10 more learning centers, bringing our total to 23 locations. In addition, we have 17 bus hotspots and 19 parking lot hotspots for families to download materials. With the help of our community, we will continue to do all we can to make it easier for students to learn remotely until we are able to bring them back into the classroom safely. Thank you again to these organizations for their commitment to providing for our students. They do so much more than provide laptops. All of these organizations are active in our schools, providing scholarships every single year. They provide mentorship. They support teachers with classroom supplies. I cannot say enough for their decades of support to the Guilford County community and to the Guilford County schools. Now I'd like to invite Linda Wilson, the Guilford County Schools Director of Community and Business Partnerships, to come to the podium to say a few words. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Contreras. It was my honor to take on this charge with the support of Shay Woodbury and David Portee under the leadership of Dr. Denise Patterson, who is in charge of student service. So when I issued the charge to the organizations, without hesitation, they came forth. The first organization to submit a check was the Sigma Gamma Rho chapter of Delta Sigma Sigma chapter under the leadership of Takesha Moore. And then everyone else followed. So I am going to introduce them, and I'm going to allow them to raise their hands so that you can see the wonderful work that they've done. Because when our communities come together, we can do great things. And as Dr. Contreras said before, we've been doing this for a number of years. And children and learning is very important to us because all of us have in our mantra the desire to make sure education is available to all students. So our first organization to contribute and issue the challenge was my very own sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, under the leadership of Suzanne Morgan. So you know me, I issued the charge to Dr. Wallington, who is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and asked him if he would meet or exceed. And he texted me back and said they would meet it exactly. So Brother Ralph Miller from the Kappa Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity is here to represent. The next chapter to contribute was the Sigma Iota Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated under the leadership of Kelly Thompson, and she expressed to me that she may not be able to come, so we're going to still give her a round of applause, and Shay Woodbury is standing in for her. Our next chapter was under the leadership of Crystal Boyce, and Crystal was actually a student when I was at A&T, so was Dr. Wallington, I believe. Anyway, the Beta Iota Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated answered the challenge. We want to give them a round of applause. Brother David Miller, he represents two chapters, the Gamma Beta Sigma chapter and the Eta chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. David. We also have represented with us this morning Brother Jonathan Shannon of the Greensboro Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity. If he would just stand and raise. As I was telling Dr. Wallington, we were not able to get in touch with them in a timely manner. So he said, are they going to be here? I said, don't worry, I will get the check. I will get the check, Dr. Wallington. Right, brother? Okay, got you. The other one is Brother Michael Rogers from Omega Psi Phi. He is from the Beta Kappa Kappa chapter of Omega Psi Phi. And I will get the check, brother. Thank you, thank you. I know that they will. But we could not have done this if they did not have the mindset to make a difference in our communities. So we just want to give them another round of applause and thank them for coming this morning. And now I'm going to introduce Louise Coates, who will be receiving the donation. Louise is with the Gifted Education Alliance. Louise.
It is such a joy and a pleasure to be involved with these fine organizations who do so much to support our community. Guilford Education Alliance exists to galvanize the community around support of our public schools, knowing that great communities have great schools, and it's not just up to the teachers and the administrators, it's up to the whole citizenry of our community to make sure that our children have what they need and that our schools are supplied with everything to be successful. So we do that in a lot of ways, and this is so thrilling to see the just overwhelming support from our community for all these laptops that have been coming through. We started collecting in March, excuse me, and it's amazing how much people just want to be helpful. So we appreciate all of you so much. Thank you. And there are lots of ways for people to be involved, in big ways and small ways. So I would encourage you to check out Guilford Education Alliance online and see how you can be involved. And we thank you all so much for coming this morning. Have a great day.
I'd be glad to take any questions that you might have.
Dr. Contreras, can you quantify what this money will do to be able to, how many devices?
Thank
Be
you.
able
Could you
to-
say that again?
Would you be able to quantify how many devices this money will help provide for
How
students?
many devices?
Yes, ma'am.
It depends on what rate the Guilford Education Alliance is able to get. So at some point, we've been able to purchase Chromebooks for less than $200. So that's been helpful. We can also get like new devices, refurbished devices, for about $75. Is that right? It's gone up a little, but it's not that expensive. In fact, we expect to receive several hundred of those devices today. At Hairston Middle School, 500 students lack devices. It is one of the poorest communities in the Greensboro area. These students have struggled academically because of the weight of poverty in which they live. And to come forward and say, we'll adopt this school to make sure every child has a device is so admirable in what these organizations are committed to doing. I'm sorry, you can say that out loud.
Take your mask off, that's what I was saying. You can take your mask off while you talk.
Oh, okay, thank you. To make sure you all can hear me. It's so admirable, and it's what these organizations have been doing, as I said, for many, many years, but they wanted to know which school is in the most trouble. And this is one of the communities in which these organizations have traditionally worked the most, just working to uplift the families and these children. So we expect that with the continued contributions and the contributions from Omega Psi Phi and Kappa Alpha Psi, that we should be able to cover all of the children at Hairston Middle School.
Sorry. Do I need to take this out? Okay. Hey, Dr. Contreras, Grace Holland with WFMY News 2. I wanted to ask, the governor's announcement yesterday that we're going to be moving into Plan A. How does that affect Guilford County's need for these laptops? If students are going back to school, do you still need the 79,000?
Absolutely. So you may or may not have heard of the homework gap. Whether or not we're in school, every student should have a device. Poor children, particularly Black and brown children, are suffering because they cannot do their homework at home. They cannot do research at home. Most districts are not using textbooks anymore. They do research through technology. And children across the nation, millions of children, suffer because they don't have a device and or access to high-speed internet connectivity. And that is a disgrace in the United States in 2020. So not only are we trying to bridge this digital divide through our efforts to provide devices, but our organizations also engage in advocacy to say to the FCC they need to utilize the billions of dollars they have access to make sure that children have and families have access to broadband connectivity. This should not be a luxury in 2020, but every American should have this as a public utility so that they can do their shopping. You can't even access your medical records anymore if you don't have access to broadband connectivity, and there's no reason this can't be done in our great nation.
Okay. So again, with moving to Plan A, you said in a statement yesterday that this aligns with the recommendation that you've made to the school board. So were you surprised that the governor made that decision?
No, it aligns with our decisions. Maybe he looked at our work. Okay.
I didn't know anyone else was going to go, so I'll just keep going. I'm just looking at my list here. What is the data telling you about, with Guilford County's cases and how that relates to heading back to school?
What is the health
The
department?
health department data, yes.
To be very careful, because we're not under the 5% positivity rate, and we're not decreasing at the rate that we should in terms of hospitalizations. So even though we're moving forward with the gradual reentry that is recommended across the nation as we study this deeply, we still have to be very careful and make certain that we are social distancing, we're using masks, and that we're starting with the youngest children who are least likely to transmit this COVID-19. So it's really important that we keep up to date. I know this is a struggle for parents. I am a parent. I am struggling, and I'm the superintendent with many, many resources available. So I understand what parents are going to. But more than anything else, we want parents and children and teachers and staff and school nutrition workers and bus drivers to come out of this healthy, safe, and whole. And that is our responsibility. So as much as we want children back in school, we have to do this in a safe way. And that's what we want parents to understand. We hear them. We agree with them. As superintendent, I understand the ramifications of children not being in school. I also understand the ramifications of forcing this before we're ready to do this and how unsafe that could be for our faculty, staff, and children.
Now that Plan A means, according to Governor Cooper, that the classroom capacities don't have to be limited, do you plan to continue the idea of limiting, when students first go back? I'm not asking this super well. Basically, I know the previous recommendation you had made to the board included limiting class size capacity, but now that the governor's Plan A says you don't have to do that, will that still be part of the recommendation?
Absolutely, because each county has to consider what their metrics are, their health metrics are. We are still above 5% test positivity rate. So for us not to social distance when there is no vaccine yet would be absolutely reckless. And I will not be reckless with the lives of my own child or anyone else's child or our staff members. For being here this morning. Have a great day.